This is the final video of the ZiptieAI video series. In this video, we'll talk about Pie in the Sky, the Pitts Epic 6. I may be wrong about this, but I think these topics are probably not really important or, how I say, practical for ZiptieAI, the goals in ZiptieAI. There may be one exception here. I think about this. Matlab has some pretty good, the UAV toolbox, modifying or customizing the firmware with Matlab, I think is interesting. That might fit well with in part 14 in Epic 5. I'm not sure about that. I'd have to look at it, but that might be. Anyway, I won't go through these very much, but I'll just give you an overview. The HITL, the hardware in the loop, the problem with the HITL is the HITL tends to be very compute intensive, and it's a lot of trouble to set up. You'll hear about JMavSim, and that's one of the simulators, and Gazebo. And I'm not really impressed by the quality of either one. I mean, private companies that make like the gaming, 3D gaming, they're just making incredible strides, incredible advances. But these are open source. They're difficult to set up, and they seem to be, possibly Gazebo has a lot of value when you're going to design some kind of, let's say, an airplane, and you really want to verify that the aerodynamics are correct, or you're going to make a new copter, and you're wanting to fly some really fancy, the aerodynamics are really important. You can spend a great deal of time, set up, very, very accurately represent your copter or your plane in Gazebo, build a model, and then simulate flying through the air to see how it flies. But for a quadcopter, that's not really that's not something you're going to want to do in ZiptieAI. So the other one is this SITL. When I first started, I spent maybe 2 months on this. Really incredible genius from Intelligent Quads. He put together a fantastic, Eric from Intelligent Quads, a fantastic drone software development tutorial. The problem with this was he did everything in YouTube videos, and he didn't number his steps, and the steps, there's very, very many steps. All the details are important. So what I did is I went through it. It took me a long, long time. I'm not a Linux person, and basically I created detailed Word documents that show what I did. So I think it'd be fairly easy if you're really interested in this. You could go through this fairly easily, because here, let's wait for this to come up. Yeah, my computer's kind of slow here today. Yeah, here we are. So if you look through this file, you'll see like 8, 9. You see like the 8 right here. That's step number 8, what you have to do. And in here I put down, and also for records for myself, what Linux partition I was doing this on. So I put the output. There's about 10,000 lines of output. So to get this all working is pretty intense, and that's just the initial getting it working. And I think there's there's almost 100 steps. And I still need to go through this again. And I still need to clean it up. But every time I go through it, there's a couple differences. But here, I actually did get the copter flying. And the copter has a camera or it has LiDAR or a camera. And it sees this object and it goes around the object. The thing is, what really is the value of this? I mean, you're going to be using a different camera. When you're going to be wanting, when you want to do object recognition, it's very important the hardware, the companion computer. It's important the camera, and these are, you're simulating them. It's a crude simulation. So what was done here was really great. It was truly great, this series, because it gave the big picture overview. And it's really the only big picture overview I have seen for doing drones other than ZiptieAI. This guy, Eric, is a real genius. He did some really heavy duty stuff. I mean, it's beyond my capabilities. But he didn't really do it step by step, the end examples. And he didn't have Word files, and he didn't have a wiki. And so what happened was this video series got out of date, and he created a video to update the difference for a new version of Linux. And things were missing. It was very, very confusing. It took me a couple weeks to figure things out. And I look at forums, and I'm not the only one who had trouble. So this was a fantastic way to start. But if I had ZiptieAI, I could have gotten flying and doing a lot of interesting stuff that actually gets me very quickly to creating an AI autonomous intelligent copter much, much quicker. This, I don't know. It was interesting. So that's, oh, he had several, you notice there were several documents. What I showed you there was just the first part. These other parts are a little bit simpler. He does object recognition. But again, you're doing this as a simulator, so what's the value of it? A swarm, a swarm. And I'll tell you something about swarms. What was done in this video, this series, was not really a swarm. It was 4 copters, each flying, doing their own thing, all at the same time. That's not a swarm. So if you have a swarm, and this is very often, this is a bunch of hype. It's just like, artificial intelligence. There is no intelligence in artificial intelligence. It's simulated intelligence. But you have the drones. They're not drones. They're simulated drones. Because in a drone, every member of the drone is watching what the others are doing. And they are acting as one whole. They are interacting all the time. And that's not what this does. So anyway, fantastic series. Very, very interesting. Let me get. So yeah, and then we have Matlab, which I spent a couple days on. Yesterday I spent on July the 4th. I spent sometime July the 4th and 3rd looking through Matlab ROS. I was trying to figure out more about ROS. Outdated documentation, confusing, missing parts. Matlab, I guess, is a really fantastic product. But it seems like it is so big, it is so chaotic. The documents get outdated, they're not step by step. You have to have all these modules, all these. So I don't really see the value. I haven't seen the value yet. But I think I maybe need to get back in there and find out about how to do the PX4 doc development with Matlab. Then ROS. I put ROS at the end. ROS to me is something you would want to use with robots. And we're not doing a robot, we're doing an intelligent quadcopter. And ROS is very complicated. People say it's not a robot. ROS stands for Robot Operating System. They say it's not an operating system, but in a way it almost is. It's not technically an operating system. What it is, as I understand, you will, to run, like, let's say, something on your copter, you will use the command ROS run, and then you have like a ROS configuration file. And so as I understand it, you're actually running your intelligent drone program within ROS. And ROS is the messaging system. and it's supposed to make everything easy. But maybe in some cases it does. But I think it just really complicates things. The other thing is they have this crazy versioning system with these turtles. They call it Humble Hawksbill. They have all these weird names for all their versions with themes based on some turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. 30 years ago, I saw how the kids love these things, but oh my God, guys, number your versions. Versions are not numbered. You have to have a specific version of Linux. You have to have maybe a clean build of Linux. It's really hard to uninstall ROS. So I found myself when I was doing ROS demos that I would have to reinstall Linux on a clean Linux to install another ROS or do anything. So that's not what you want to do on your Nano. After you've got your Nano set up to do an object recognition or some kind of fancy AI program, you don't want to go in there and have to redo your Nano operating system, which is, their own. I guess you can use Ubuntu on there, but you're not going to want to do that. So that was never explained in this video series. And, I noticed that before I close, this is my last video. Let me say a few things about this, some of my own opinions about this. Eric in here, he always stayed with simulation. And I saw in a later video somewhere where he actually went to a drone, one of these Pixhawk drones. And it was really interesting for me, his reaction, because he was saying like it was really, really difficult. Or maybe he was talking about FPV drones. What I started out with here at the beginning. He was saying they're really, really difficult. And he was talking about, man, it was, he's a real expert. So, this was really a challenge and a challenge. And it was so interesting to me to hear an expert talking about when they get out of their expertise, their area of comfort, they're just like the rest of us. They need something like ZiptieAI to get started. And also with Joshua Bardwell. He's a pretty famous, big expert on FPV. He did a video where he went to Pixhawk. And, he's a great entertainer. Really, really great entertainer. He said, oh my God, I'm out of my comfort zone. This is so scary. I don't know what I'm doing. So he's also, always in the FPV world. So what happens with these guys is they're always trying to sell what their expertise is. And in ZiptieAI, I don't know if anybody's watching these videos. I do these videos kind of for myself also. The objective here is to get a clean path through all this, the jungle, all this chaos, to where you just get rid of the chaff, everything that keeps you from getting to your goal as quickly as possible. And you focus on reaching that goal. And that means a lot of times investigating things that you don't really understand. It means being flexible, zip tying stuff together. It means redoing these videos many, many times, redoing the wiki. But it's having a vision, having a goal, and going for it. And that's what this whole video series and ZiptieAI is about. And I hope that to some extent I have succeeded in that.